Good morning, students. Today we are going to revise digastric triangle. So in this diagram, I have shown the both the side, right side as well as the left side view of the side of neck, simply for orientation. That's it. Yes. So this whole lot is going to be the side of the neck, which is quadrilateral in shape. That is going to be divided into two triangles by means of the sternocleidomastoid muscle. This is going to be the sternocleidomastoid muscle. Why we call it as sternocleidomastoid? Because it is getting attached to the sternum, clavicle, so cleido, and mastoid process. Yes, so only we are calling it as sternocleidomastoid muscle. So this muscle is going to divide the side of the neck into an anterior triangle and a posterior triangle. Yes. So coming to the anterior triangle, this is going to be the anterior triangle. Yes, this is going to be the anterior triangle. It is bounded above by the base of mandible. This is going to be the base of mandible. I will show it in yellow color. So this is going to be the base of the mandible. And this is going to be the angle of the mandible. Yes. So from the angle of mandible to the mastoid process, there will be an imaginary line drawn, and that is going to form the boundary above of the triangle, the anterior triangle as such. So anterior triangle above is bounded by the base of the mandible and an imaginary line drawn from the angle of the mandible to the mastoid process. Anteriorly, it is bounded by the midline structure extending from the symphysis mandi. This is the symphysis mandi. I will show it in blue color. Yes. So this is going to be the symphysis mandi. Even here you can see this is going to be the symphysis mandi. From the symphysis mandi to the suprasternal notch over here, that is between the clavicle and above the sternum lies the suprasternal notch here. So, and line from the symphysis mandi to the suprasternal notch forms the midline, and the structures lying in that midline will be forming the anterior boundary of the triangle, and behind it is bounded by hopefully the sternocleidomastoid muscle. Yes, the anterior border of the sternocleidomastoid muscle. Yes, anterior triangle boundary is over. Coming to the posterior triangle, the posterior triangle is bounded between the sternocleidomastoid muscle anterior and the trapezius muscle posterior. The apex is here. Yes, where in the superior nuchal line, the sternocleidomastoid and the trapezius muscle will be attached to forms the apex of the posterior triangle, and the base is formed by the clavicle. Anteriorly bounded by the sternocleidomastoid, posteriorly bounded by the trapezius muscle. This posterior triangle is divided into two by means of the inferior belly of omohyoid. When we say inferior belly, definitely there will be a superior belly. Yes. So inferior belly of omohyoid is going to divide the posterior triangle, and the superior belly, you can see here in blue color mark, this is going to be the superior belly of omohyoid. This superior belly is going to take part in the division of anterior triangle. Yes, so we are clear about the posterior triangle, hope so. Yes, it is bounded between sternocleidomastoid, trapezius muscle. Above it is both are approximating each other, forms the apex, and base is formed by the clavicle. The triangle is divided into the upper occipital triangle and the lower sub or supraclavicular triangle by means of the inferior belly of omohyoid. Coming to the anterior triangle, this whole lot is going to be the anterior triangle. I will show it in yellow color again. Okay. So this whole lot is going to be the anterior triangle. You people know the boundary very well. This triangle is again being divided into 3.5 triangle. I repeat, 3.5 triangle by means of certain structures. First one will be the digastric muscle. When I tell digastric muscle, it has two bellies. Anterior belly, this is going to be the anterior belly and the posterior belly. Yes, so here also you can see this is going to be the anterior belly and this is going to be the posterior belly. Anterior belly and the posterior belly, they are connected by means of tendon in between, and the stylohyoid muscle, you can see this one. Yes, this is going to be the stylohyoid muscle. As the name mentioned, it is attached from the styloid process. Somewhere over here the styloid process will be there. From the styloid process to the hyoid bone, the muscle will be coming and the muscle will be splitting into two and it gets inserted. Between the stylohyoid muscle space, between its insertion, this tendon of the digastric muscle will be passing, like passing in between the sling. This is the orientation of these three muscles. So anterior belly of digastric, posterior belly of digastric, and the stylohyoid muscle together divides the triangle, anterior triangle, into 3.5 triangle. You can see the number 1 here, that is going to be the digastric triangle or submandibular triangle. Number 2 over here, this is going to be the carotid triangle, which is of very important. So this is going to be the carotid triangle, which is bounded in between the posterior belly of digastric and stylohyoid above and below by the superior belly of omohyoid and behind by the sternocleidomastoid muscle. The third will be the muscular triangle. You can see this. This is going to be the muscular triangle. I will show you it in green color. Number 3. This is going to be the muscular triangle. You can see here. Yes. So this is the muscular triangle, which the name insists the main content is going to be muscles. That to the infrahyoid muscles. Yes. The fourth one is the half Mendel triangle on each side. So this blue color region is going to be the Mendel triangle, submendel triangle. The both the side submendel triangle together makes one single submendel triangle. It is bounded on either sides by the anterior belly of digastric. They both are getting attached to the digastric fossa. Yes, of the mandible. So that forms the apex and the base is formed by the hyoid bone for the particular triangle. So as far as this slide is concerned, we know the divisions of the sides of neck, how many triangles are there and why they are named so. Now coming to the boundary of digastric triangle. Here it has been clearly mentioned, the blue colored dotted line, that is going to be the small digastric triangle of high significant value because it is also called as submandibular triangle. Why? The main content of it is going to be submandibular salivary gland. Very good. So this submandibular triangle or the digastric triangle, we know above it is bounded by the base of the mandible and an imaginary line from the angle of the mandible to the mastoid process. Antero-inferiorly bounded by the anterior belly of digastric, postero-inferiorly bounded by the posterior belly of digastric and the stylohyoid muscle. This is going to be the boundary. Whenever we are talking about any triangles, first we should locate about the triangle where it is. Then we should talk about the boundary. Next we should talk about the roof structures. What are all the structures forming the roof? Then we should talk about the floor. Then only we should go to the content, and if it is having any other significant values, we should explain those things also. Now, so what we are going to see next? Yes, it is going to be the roof structures. So roof, in any triangles, when you go from outside to inwards, we will be first telling the skin as the superficial structure. Yes, here in this diagram we have reflected the skin. So soon after reflecting the skin, the first structure, we will be appreciating the superficial fascia. Here, along with the superficial fascia, there are other structures also present. That first one is going to be the platysma muscle. This whole lot is going to be the platysma muscle. So what is the very significant of this platysma muscle? Can anyone? Yes, Platysma is an example for panniculus cornosus, that is subdermal muscle. The muscle is attached to the skin. Yes, so this platysma muscle is located in the or along the superficial fascia. There are also some cutaneous and nerves present along with the superficial fascia. In that, number one is going to be the cervical branch of facial nerve. See, I have located here. You can see this yellow color circled region, that is going to be the cervical branch. Facial nerve soon after emerging out of the stylomastoid foramen. So you can see here, this is going to be the styloid process, and here will be the mastoid process. So in between these two processes, the stylomastoid foramen will be there and the facial nerve emerges out. Soon after that, it will be giving off the terminal 5 branches. If I am not wrong, we have seen already this in facial nerve. Yes. So one of its terminal branch is going to be deep cervical or the cervical branch. So this particular branch is related superficial to the roof of digastric triangle. So far we have seen two structures. One is going to be the skin, next one is going to be the superficial fascia. Superficial fascia along with the platysma and the cervical branch of facial nerve we have seen. Next we will see about the ascending anterior cutaneous nerve or the ascending branch of transverse cervical nerve. It is also called as anterior cutaneous nerve. This is also related in the superficial fascia. So altogether in the superficial fascia, we appreciate number one, the platysma. Number two will be the cervical branch of facial nerve. And the three will be the ascending anterior cutaneous nerve. Yes. So skin, superficial fascia. The third one will be the deep fascia. Here deep fascia is having a high significance because not like other bodies we have deep fascia here. We will describe it in other terms, that is investing layer of deep cervical fascia. Not like the other part of the body, throughout there will be deep fascia presence. There in the face we don't have deep fascia. Then and there it will be condensed to form the uh, covering of the salivary gland, the parotid gland. There it is called as paroticomesenteric fascia. Here at the neck region we call it as deep cervical fascia. Yes. So here what happens, the deep cervical fascia which is lying deep to the platysma muscle, it will ascend up, it will split into two to enclose the submandibular salivary gland. Again they reunite and then gets attached to the base of the mandible. I hope this is going to be the base. So there it gets attached. Yes. So the deep fascia, how it is splitting up, enclosing the submandibular salivary gland, and then where it is attached, we may see here. The white colored netted like structure is going to be the deep fascia. So hope I have finished about the roof clearly. So the roof is made by skin, superficial fascia along with the platysma, cervical branch of facial nerve, and the ascending anterior cutaneous nerve, and lastly deepest will be the deep fascia here, that is the investing layer of the deep cervical fascia. So next we will be seeing about the floor. The floor is formed by three muscles mainly contributed by mylohyoid muscle and the hyoglossus muscle. Mylohyoid Mylohyoid muscle is anteriorly placed and the hyoglossus muscle is lying beneath the mylohyoid. Partially it is covered by the mylohyoid muscle and the remaining part of the hyoglossus is only exposed. There is also some part of the middle constrictor of pharynx contributing. If you see in this diagram, you can see this part. Yes. Can you see? So some part of the middle constrictor of the pharynx is going to contribute in forming the floor of the digastric triangle. Altogether, the floor is formed by mylohyoid muscle, hyoglossus. So this is going to be the mylohyoid muscle. Yes, this whole lot is the mylohyoid muscle, and this is going to be the hyoglossus muscle, and the partial content will be the middle constrictor of the pharynx. So we have seen about the boundary, then the roof, then the floor. Now coming to the content. So we see the content of the triangle. We divide the whole lot triangle into an anterior part and a posterior part. The anterior part in general consists of the main content, we know that is going to be the submandibular salivary gland. Next will be the facial vein. This diagram will be telling about the facial vein. Third content will be the submandibular lymph nodes. Submandibular lymph nodes is going to be very important in clinical aspect, because any infection of head and neck, first node to get infected and swollen will be the submandibular lymph node, because all the lymphatic drainage will be draining into this node only. The third content is going to be the facial artery. We know facial artery is a branch of external carotid artery. Here, when we take the facial vein and the submandibular lymph node, these two structures are related superficial to the mylohyoid muscle, and this facial artery is lying deep to the mylohyoid muscle. Yes, so these three are going to be the prime content, and then the submental artery. Hope you people remember, submental artery is going to be a branch of facial artery. Then the mylohyoid nerves and vessels. Mylohyoid nerve is the branch of mandibular nerve. Its anterior division, its posterior division, sorry. And the mylohyoid vessels will also be the content of this anterior part, and finally will be the hypoglossal nerve. Yes, so these are all going to be the structures related in the anterior part. We will also study it in two other headings, that is structures related or superficial to the mylohyoid muscle and structures related to the hyoglossus muscle. In general, these are the six content of the anterior part. Structures superficial to mylohyoid muscle are anterior valley of digastric, submental arteries and accompanying veins, nerve to mylohyoid, mylohyoid vessels, superficial part of the submandibular salivary gland. And the structures lying deep to it will be the hyoglossus muscle and the structures that lies superficial to it. We will see it in the next slide. And here, this diagram will be showing the structures which are superficial to hyoglossus muscle. If the question is asked whether structures lying deep to mylohyoid muscle or structures superficial to hyoglossus muscle, both are of same. Structures which are superficial to hyoglossus are styloglossus, hypoglossal nerve, vein accompanying the hypoglossal nerve, submandibular ganglion, lingual nerve, deep part of the submandibular salivary gland and the submandibular duct. Here, the submandibular salivary gland, we know the superficial part is above the mylohyoid, deep part is below the mylohyoid. It is engulfing the muscle. So these two questions are of high importance, Potter question. Structures lying superficial to mylohyoid and structures superficial to hyoglossus muscle. Coming to the posterior part of the triangle, the posterior part, when we take the main important content will be the parotid gland and the external carotid artery, which is piercing the apex of it. This is the superficial content of the posterior part. Coming to the deep content, structures between the external and the internal carotid artery makes the deep content. In that, first one will be the styloglossus, second is the stylopharyngeus, third is the glossopharyngeal, fourth is the pharyngeal branch of the vagus nerve, and fifth is the styloid process. Sixth is the path of parotid gland. These all makes the deep content, and the deepest content are the internal jugular vein, the internal carotid artery and the vagus nerve. These structures forms the posterior relation of the triangle. So till now we have seen about the digastric triangle, its boundary, and then the structures forming the roof. Next will be the floor, the muscles which are forming the floor, and the content. To study the content, we divide into two, anterior part and the posterior part. Anterior part, generalized content we saw, and when people are asking precisely structures superficial to mylohyoid or structure related to hyoglossus also we have discussed. And when we saw the posterior part of the triangle, the posterior part of the triangle, the content we study under three headings: the superficial content, deep, and the deepest content. The superficially we saw only the parotid gland and the external carotid artery. The deep content will be structures present between the external and the internal carotid artery. It is of very important spotter question, and the deepest content will be the internal carotid artery, internal jugular vein, and the vagus nerve. So this is all about the content of the digastric triangle. Hope we have revised well about the digastric triangle, and we will see to the other topics later. Thank you.